The storm's echo. The wind howled outside our suburban home, rattling the windows and sending shivers down my spine. I was just an ordinary 10-year-old boy named Ethan, and I found myself home alone with my babysitter Lisa on a particularly stormy night. My parents had gone out for a rare date night, leaving us to fend for ourselves. At first, the evening seemed like any other, with pizza and a movie planned to keep us entertained. As the rain poured and the thunder rumbled, Lisa and I huddled on the couch in front of the TV. I couldn't help but feel a bit anxious, with the eerie darkness outside making me uneasy. Lisa, always good at reading my emotions, tried to reassure me. "Don't worry, Ethan," she said with a warm smile. "We've got plenty of snacks and movies to keep us occupied. Plus, your parents will be back before you know it." I tried to shake off my unease, focusing on the movie, but something about that night felt different. It was as if the storm had brought an unsettling energy with it. I couldn't help but glance nervously toward the windows from time to time. As we settled into the movie, the power suddenly flickered and then went out completely, plunging us into darkness. I jumped, clutching onto Lisa's arm for support. She let out a nervous laugh, trying to comfort me. "It's just a power outage, Ethan," she said. "Happens all the time during storms. I'll go grab some candles and we can continue the movie by candlelight." Lisa got up and disappeared into the kitchen, leaving me alone in the living room. I sat there, my eyes adjusting to the dim light filtering through the curtains. That's when I heard it, a faint, rhythmic tapping on the window. My heart pounded in my chest as I turned my gaze toward the source of the sound. At first I thought it might be a tree branch brushing against the glass, but the tapping continued, deliberate and unsettling. My mind raced with fear, and I called out for Lisa. "Lisa, there's something at the window," I yelled, my voice trembling. She rushed back into the room, a candle in one hand and a worried expression on her face. "What's going on, Ethan?" I pointed to the window, where the tapping continued. Lisa's eyes widened in alarm as she approached the window cautiously. She peered outside, her face growing pale. "It's probably just a branch," she said, trying to sound brave. "I'll go check it out." Lisa stepped toward the front door, but before she could reach it, a loud crash echoed through the house, followed by the sound of shattering glass. We both screamed, and she grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the kitchen. "Come on, Ethan, we need to hide," Lisa whispered urgently. We made our way to the pantry, our breaths shaky and hearts pounding. I could hear footsteps, slow and deliberate, moving through the house. Someone was inside with us, and panic clawed at my chest. Lisa reached for her phone and dialed 911, but the call wouldn't connect. Tears welled up in her eyes as she tried repeatedly. "They must have cut the phone lines," she said, her voice trembling. "We need to stay quiet and wait for the police." Huddled together in the darkness of the pantry, we listened as the intruder moved through the house, getting closer to our hiding spot. I held my breath, praying that whoever it was would leave. Minutes felt like hours as we waited in terrified silence. Then, to our horror, the pantry door creaked open slowly. A beam of faint light from a flashlight pierced the darkness, revealing a shadowy figure. My heart seemed to stop as I stared into the face of the intruder. Me. I gasped in disbelief as I looked at my own face, masked in darkness and contorted into a twisted grin. It was me, wearing a hoodie and holding a flashlight, and my eyes bore a malevolent glint that was utterly foreign to me. Lisa let out a horrified scream, and the intruder that looked like me raised a finger to his lips in a sinister gesture, shushing her. My doppelganger slowly approached us, the eerie smile never leaving his face. I couldn't comprehend what was happening. How could I be standing in front of myself? The intruder leaned closer, and I could see the madness in his eyes. I realized with a sinking feeling that this wasn't me. It was something else wearing my face. "Who are you?" Lisa stammered, tears streaming down her face. The intruder didn't answer. Instead, he reached out and grabbed Lisa's phone, throwing it to the ground and shattering it. We were cut off from the outside world, trapped in the darkness with this malevolent presence. With a sudden burst of strength, the intruder lunged at us, and Lisa and I scrambled to get away. We burst out of the pantry, racing toward the front door, but he was faster. He grabbed Lisa by the arm, and she screamed in pain. I had to do something. I couldn't let this imposter hurt Lisa. With all the strength I could muster, I grabbed a heavy vase from the nearby table and swung it at the intruder's head. The vase connected with a sickening thud, and the intruder staggered back, releasing Lisa. We didn't waste a moment. We sprinted out of the front door, not looking back, and ran toward our neighbor's house, screaming for help. They called the police, who arrived within minutes. The officers searched our house thoroughly, but found no sign of the intruder. Lisa and I were both shaken and confused, struggling to make sense of what had happened. How had there been two of me, or at least something that looked like me? As the police continued their investigation, it slowly became clear that I had been the one behind the break-in, even though I had no memory of it. The evidence was overwhelming. My fingerprints were on the shattered glass, and security footage from our neighbor's house showed me leaving our home during the power outage. I couldn't understand how I could have done such a thing. I felt like I was going crazy. The only explanation they could come up with was that I had experienced some sort of dissociative episode, a dark alter ego that had taken control of me during that stormy night. I was sent to therapy, and my parents, despite their shock and confusion, tried to support me through the ordeal. I couldn't shake the feeling of dread and guilt that hung over me. What if that alter ego returned? Years passed, and the memories of that terrifying night haunted me. I had learned to control my darker impulses through therapy and medication, but I still couldn't explain what had happened that night. The storm had passed, but its aftermath continued to cast a long shadow over my life, a reminder of the darkness that can lurk even within the most ordinary of souls.
Lily's Labyrinth. I was never a fan of babysitting, but when my neighbor, Mrs. Anderson, pleaded with me to watch her 10-year-old daughter Lily for the evening, I couldn't say no. She looked so frazzled, explaining that her husband was away on business, and she just needed a night out to relax. Reluctantly, I agreed. The Andersons' house was a grand old Victorian, perched on the outskirts of town, surrounded by thick woods. It had always given me the creeps, even in the daytime. The creaky floorboards and the endless array of antique dolls that adorned every available surface didn't help either. But I was a responsible teenager, determined to earn some extra cash, so I put on a brave face. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I could feel the weight of the house bearing down on me. The shadows grew longer, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Still, I dismissed my unease as mere nerves and focused on keeping Lily entertained. We played board games, watched cartoons, and even attempted to bake cookies, which ended up as burnt lumps of dough. Around 9 p.m., Lily's yawns grew more frequent, and it was clear she was ready for bed. I led her upstairs, tucked her in, and turned on the nightlight. She clutched her favorite stuffed bunny, Mr. Whiskers, and fell asleep almost instantly, her soft snores echoing in the dimly lit room. With Lily safely tucked in, I retreated downstairs to the living room. I settled into the couch, trying to distract myself from the eerie ambience of the house. I flipped through a magazine and occasionally glanced out the window into the inky darkness. The howling wind seemed to mimic my growing unease. Suddenly, a soft, repetitive noise drew my attention. It was coming from the hallway, like a faint scratching sound. My heart raced as I tried to dismiss it as just the old house settling, but it persisted, growing louder and more insistent, like claws scraping against wood. Fear clung to me as I tiptoed towards the hallway. The scratching led me to a closet door, the source of the eerie noise. I hesitated, my hand trembling as I reached for the doorknob. As the door creaked open, a freezing gust of air rushed out, causing me to shiver involuntarily. Inside the closet, I found nothing but old coats and forgotten belongings, but the scratching was unmistakably coming from somewhere within. I took a deep breath and pushed aside the coats, revealing a hidden passage. It was like something out of a horror movie, a narrow tunnel leading into the darkness beneath the house. My curiosity got the better of me, and I foolishly decided to investigate. Armed with a flashlight from the kitchen, I descended into the abyss, the walls closing in around me as I moved further underground. I had no idea where this tunnel led, but my desire to uncover the source of the scratching pushed me onward. Minutes turned into hours as I navigated the labyrinthine passages beneath the house. I could hear the scratching growing louder and more frenzied as I got closer to the source. My heart pounded in my chest, and the walls seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy. But I couldn't turn back now. Finally, I emerged into a small chamber, bathed in an eerie red glow. In the center of the room, I saw the source of the scratching, a massive, grotesque creature. It resembled a twisted, deformed version of a human, with elongated limbs and sharp, claw-like fingers. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and its mouth contorted into a sinister grin as it continued to scratch at the walls. I gasped in horror, unable to move as the creature turned its attention to me. It scuttled towards me on all fours, its movements unnatural and disjointed. I stumbled backward, my flashlight falling from my trembling hands. The creature's eyes locked onto mine, and I felt a wave of terror wash over me. As it drew closer, I noticed something even more unsettling. The creature's voice, a guttural whisper that filled the chamber. "You found me," it hissed, its voice sending shivers down my spine. "Now, you'll be a part of me forever." I turned and sprinted back through the tunnels, my heart pounding in my ears. The creature pursued me relentlessly, its eerie whisper echoing through the labyrinth. I had no idea where I was going, but I couldn't let that thing catch me. Finally, I burst back into the living room, gasping for breath. The house felt even colder and more sinister than before. I slammed the closet door shut, hoping to contain whatever horror I had unleashed below. But I knew deep down that it was only a matter of time before it found a way out. Panicked, I raced upstairs to check on Lily, praying that she was still safe. I threw open her bedroom door and froze in horror. The room was empty, the covers neatly pulled back, and Mr. Whiskers lay on the floor, abandoned. Tears welled up in my eyes as I realized that Lily was gone. The creature had taken her, and I had unwittingly led it right to her. The weight of guilt and fear bore down on me, and I knew I had to do something, anything, to save her. I retraced my steps through the house, searching for any clue, any sign of where the creature had taken Lily. But there was nothing, just the oppressive silence of the old house. I was running out of time. Desperation led me back to the closet, and I opened it one final time. The tunnel was gone, sealed shut as if it had never existed. It was as if the house itself was mocking me, trapping me with my guilt and fear. With no other options, I dialed 911, my trembling fingers struggling to hit the right numbers. I begged the dispatcher for help, but as I described the creature and the underground tunnels, her voice grew more and more skeptical. I could hear the doubt in her tone as she assured me that help was on the way. But deep down, I knew that no one would be able to save Lily from the nightmarish creature that lurked below the house. It was a horror beyond comprehension, a malevolent force that defied all logic and reason. And I had unwittingly unleashed it upon an innocent child. As I sat in the dark, haunted by the knowledge of what I had done, I heard the faintest whisper, echoing through the house. It was the creature's voice, taunting me, promising that it would return for me one day. I knew that I would never escape the nightmares that haunted that night, that I would forever be tormented by the twisted end I had brought upon myself and the sweet, innocent girl who had trusted me to keep her safe.